Hey, it's a Nightmare Fred show where we definitely don't use a bedroom as our recording studio. Yay!
I keep hearing that the week before supposedly proves that the Unwithereds didn't exist, but when you look further into it, that is most certainly not the case. So this is my video debunking the common misconception called Retrofit Theory. To my understanding, retrofit theory claims that after the closure of the first Freddy's, which according to this theory had the OG FNAF 1 designs, decided to test new designs that had newer parts and new casing, ergo the Unwithered designs we see in FNAF 2, but would eventually just be discarded in favor of the toy animatronics. The main point of evidence for backing this up is that the fact in the week before, Rolf calls the design to the character's vintage, and there's also the dream sequences in FNAF 2 showing the FNAF 1 designs, and the 1983 Coin and Help Wanted features the FNAF 1 Freddy design. So now that we have an understanding of this theory, it's time to debunk it. Now I see that with the dream sequences that they must mean that the Unwithered didn't exist, but I believe in God Victim, which is basically that whatever the crying child had memories of, saw, or thought would change reality and make Golden Freddy the strongest entity. So I think this is just Golden Freddy showing us the future, essentially. So that's debunked as evidence, and for more evidence in that theory, the Unwithered Truth has a video about God Victim, so you can check that out if you want. And for Rolf calling the character designs vintage does make sense to prove that they didn't exist, but there's one big thing that contradicts this in Secret of the Mimic. In this game, when we go down to R&D, we see a giant Freddy head in the FNAF 1 style, and the prototypes that share the FNAF 1 design that we all know. This may at first seem as evidence for retrofit theory, but it's entirely the opposite. As we know from this audio tape, which I'll play, Edwin said he wasn't going to go with the new design changes that made the characters supposedly scary.
Aren't they insane? The look of these new animatronics is Fiona's design, and they're great. Oh, first they approve the art, then they approve the proofs. Now they change their minds. Well, we're so close to final. Why would they change them now? Are they pulling my leg? The new concepts are, frankly, creepy. No, it doesn't matter. I'm not changing a single bit of her work, and they can't make me.
So this proves the design changes that were being requested were the Unwithereds. Also in the audio tape, Edwin said he wasn't changing anything about the designs. So for long as Edwin worked with Fazbear, the FNAF 1 designs were the ones being used. This also explains why the Help Wanted coin has the FNAF 1 design, because in the early days of the Freddy location, they were using whatever they could make quickly because they had to rush and close Fredbear's after the bite of 83. And if you still think the design changes being requested were the FNAF 1 designs, Edwin mentions that the design changes were creepy. And even if you think the FNAF 1 designs are creepy, the Unwithered designs are creepier. So I think it's safe to say that the design changes being requested were the Unwithereds. So that's why the FNAF 1 designs were referred to as classic and vintage in the week before. Now also according to Retrofit Theory, the Unwithered casing was put on after the first Freddy's location closed in 1985. This means that over 2 years they would get to their state of witheredness. 2 years would not be long enough for the unwithered animatronic casing to get withered. It takes multiple years for a decay like that to happen. So the only way for it to make sense is if the Unwithereds were being used at the first Freddy's, and then with little to no maintenance throughout 2 years. This would logically be enough time for the Freddy's characters to get holy, and even though they were used for parts, casing is not used for parts. Casing just withered away naturally. Also, I've heard people use Into the Pit as evidence for retrofit theory, and oh boy, am I about to ruffle a feather for those of you who think Into the Pit is canon. Did the FNAF 1 designs have teeth at the top of their mouths? Correct answer, no. In Into the Pit, we see the Freddy's band with top teeth, which also helps prove that the Unwithereds were being used at the first Freddy's. Two things also worth noting are in Secret of the Mimic on Edwin's computer, there is a file called All Fazbear Designs, which I've heard some say that means that the Unwithereds weren't used, but yeah, that does refer to the Unwithereds and possibly the Rockstar and the toys, because those were the designs that Henry made and that Edwin made, but they didn't decide to use. So they were put in an alternative file. Also, for my final piece of evidence, no, pieces of evidence, in FNAF 2, Phone Guy says that the older models were from the previous location, which also refers to their designs, because we know that the toys and Wizards basically share the same endo, and that the endos were changed up a bit for their refurbishment in FNAF 1. Oh, and finally in FNAF 2, the drawings on the walls resemble the Unwithereds, not the classics. So, do you guys also think in 5 years Retrofit Theory will be known as one of those completely wrong theories like Mike Victim? I really got going on debunking this just because it never made sense to me from the start, and I hope this misconception gets cleared up more in the future. So, for now, bye and see y'all later.